Hello. Look, sorry for any technical difficulties before we sort of get underway. But first and foremost, thank you again for joining, for being part of this Pool B discussion. I'm here with fellow YouTuber, one of my personal favorites actually, and also obviously fellow Aussie in Sam Revill. I'm not going to introduce him though. I'll let him do it. But in saying that, first and foremost, Sam, thank you very much for joining us.
Most welcome, mate. It's all good. If you're unfamiliar to me, I do create rugby league content on my own YouTube channel. It looks like it's floating around at the bottom of the screen, as you can see there. Thank you, Hold the Ball, for having me. It's been too long since we've collaborated, mate. So, really looking forward to getting stuck into it.
Absolutely. And we all know there's a lot of noise in the rugby league world, particularly as we sort of look forward to this Rugby League World Cup. And as I noted before, this is Pool B: Australia, Fiji, Italy, and Scotland. A magnificent pool nonetheless. I suppose with very predictable outcomes in one way or another. But in saying that, a pool that should be definitely discussed nonetheless. So in saying that, with all things said and out of the way, we'll get straight into it. So as I mentioned before, Pool B: Italy, Scotland, and Australia. Just quickly, not necessarily, Sam, a prediction more so, but what are your thoughts on this general pool, being sort of put together generally?
I'm excited because Italy and Scotland and Fiji, they've all interacted each other over the past couple of World Cups. So they're not unfamiliar to each other, whereas Australia, they are very well versed against Fiji. Scotland, they're going to feel the fierceness from them. And it's, unless if I'm wrong, it's the first ever encounter between Australia and Italy that we all have to look forward to coming up in the World Cup. So, no, it's some really good stuff to look forward to just in this pool alone, man.
Awesome, as and yeah, that's right. A lot of first-time matches, I suppose, for a lot of teams too. Not obviously Pool B and other pools as well. With that being said, though, I suppose we'll get straight into the Pool B team stats. We'll go by teams individually. The first one is going to be Italy, and I'll hit this one here. So Italy, also known as Azzurri, right? Azzurri meaning blue in Italian. They've been around since how long? Basically since their first game was actually 1950. So Italy's had, I suppose, a very decorated history, believe it or not, when it comes to rugby league. And their first game was actually against Wigan, so English team there, nice, in which they lost 49 points to 28 in 1950. Their first international, however, it actually states here it was against Australia, but I think it was like Australia's B team. So I don't think it was actually the national team. It was more like an Australian B team or something, in which they lost 15 points to 37. But this was actually played in Italy, and their biggest win was against Spain in 2017, 94 points to 4. And the biggest defeat was against Scotland, 0 points to 104. So again, a bit of if you want to get vengeance, I suppose we'll see what happens. They're actually currently ranked at the moment 16th in the world, and they normally wear blue there for their jersey there. In regards to them getting into the World Cup, I believe they went through the European stages there. They beat a few other European nations to qualify. Generally speaking, though, Italy, I think, are more on for a tier 2 team, they're generally more the stronger team, one of the stronger teams in Europe anyway for tier 2 nations, right? Alongside France. You got France and Italy, who I think are generally up there. I think you've thrown Ireland as well. They're generally a strong team. But in saying that, those are the facts there, the stats there for Italy for you guys there. Next team, Sam, over to you, Fiji.
Alrighty, so Fiji made their World Cup debut in 1995, and their overall record is 19 matches played, including a couple of playoff appearances, as of most recently the previous World Cup. And their record overall is 10 wins and 9 losses. So they're doing it better at that 50%. As I said before, they did make the playoffs on 2 previous occasions, and probably the best win arguably Fiji's best ever win in World Cup history. And I'm sorry, Hold the Ball, you might know what I'm about to lay down on you, man. It was 4 points to 2. They beat New Zealand to make it to the preliminary final, if you will, of last year's World Cup. So as far as their overall ranking, I think they're just a cog below Australia in 5th position, I believe. But you might be able to correct me on that, HTB.
Yeah. Look, according to this thing here, as it currently stands, they're actually 15th apparently as of July 2022 rankings apparently. So I think they've sort of fallen down a bit.
No, there you go, man. Yo, true.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how they would have fallen down there, but there you go. Sorry, not 15. Sorry, my apologies. They're 6th. Sorry for that, guys.
6th. No, you're right. No worries.
I think you put me off when you're talking about New Zealand losing to Fiji, Sam.
True. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So in saying that, now we will look to the next team here. It will be Scotland. All right. So 2 seconds. All right. So Scotland Rugby League. So basically, just to give you guys a rundown, their first international game was in '95, and that was against Ireland, in which they lost 26 points to 22. That was over in Dublin. The biggest one was actually, as I mentioned before, against Italy, 0 points to 104. That's insane. That would be just try after try after try there. The biggest defeat came in the hands of New Zealand, losing 74 points to 6 in that one there. They've made 4 appearances in the World Cup, so this will be their 5th appearance. And their best result was quarterfinals in 2013. Not much is known about Scottish Rugby League, apart from the fact that obviously, when you sort of think of Scotland, you think of Braveheart, I suppose. And in saying that, that's what their name is, actually known as the Bravehearts. I suppose in saying that as well, look, obviously we'll touch on it later on, but it's going to be interesting to see how they play. I'm actually really excited to see how they sort of interact or match up against Fiji and Italy as well. But in saying that, we'll move over to Australia. And Sam, over to you.
Well, what can be said that hasn't been said about the Australian Kangaroos? They're the back-to-back World Cup champions, defending their title this year. And look, they've won pretty much everything known to the World Cup folklore, basically. As I said before, they have taken on Scotland previously, only on one occasion, and that was in the 2016 Four Nations tournament, resulting in 54 points to 12 victory for the Kangaroos. They have obviously met Fiji on a number of occasions, and the overwhelming stat that goes in Kangaroos' favour is that Australia have never lost to Fiji on 6 or 7 different occasions. Fiji have never beaten Australia. And as I said before, it's the first ever meeting between Australia and Italy. And there were rumours, well, probably not rumours, but there was a hope from many people that James Tedesco would probably say no to the Kangaroo squad and go and play for Italy and give them a much needed, much desired boost. But alas, it wasn't meant to be, because he is the captain of the Kangaroos. So, and again, as HTB alluded to there as well, Australia aren't first on the World Cup rankings. They aren't second. They're about 4th at the moment. So Kangaroos, man, they'd be coming into this. It feels different, doesn't it, HTB? Like in previous World Cups, it was just an afterthought that they'd get in and win. This World Cup is the most open World Cup of all time in my lifetime, man. And the Kangaroos are going to be really, really wanting to get back into the top tier spot, bro.
No, I agree with you. And obviously it was probably a lot less teams back then, but I think the last time you can find the World Cup this open is probably going back to the 70s or even 50s. I think like that's how large. The last time was actually felt that even. So in saying that though, thanks again for the stats. Now, what we'll be doing now is getting into the squad list, and this is basically where Sam and I will take turns naming the squads and then go through our own thoughts on the squads, right from strengths to weaknesses, even talk about certain players. This is where this is probably the meat pie of the video here, where we sort of try to give you guys as much info as possible from our own opinion, because again, it's all opinion based. Now, I've got the Italian squad. Wish me luck as I try and sound out these names, and we'll just get straight into it. All right, so the Italian squad for the 2022 World Cup is Giordano Arena, Daniel Atkinson, Simone Boscolo, Nathan Brown, Jack Campagnolo, Giole Celerino, Jack Colavati, Luke Hodge, Anton Iaria, Cooper Johns, Ryan King, Richard Lepori, Jake Mason, Luca Moretti, Ethan Natoli, Ippolito, Occhialini, Ronaldo Palumbo, Dean Parata, Carl Pickering, Luke Polselli, Alex Rojato, Brendan Santi, Alex Susino, Luke Tilburg, as well as Joseph Montana. And that there makes up the squad. Again, with the Azzurri, like I touched on before, they generally make most World Cups, Rugby League World Cups. This team here for mine, it's a mix of Australian plus overseas-based players. Obviously, I mentioned Nathan Brown, right? And then you have Luke Moretti, who's currently playing straight for the Eels. You got Cecino, who's in the reserve grade for the Penrith Panthers. This team here, I think, will be relying heavily on Cooper Johns. That's the reality, right? The ex-Melbourne Storm player, should I say, unfortunately. So they'll be relying heavily on him. The kicking game, the passing game, it's all going to come down to him. However, in saying that, look for some of their forwards, I think, to sort of make some noise, the likes of Brendan Santi. Now, are you familiar with that name, Sam?
I certainly am, mate. I certainly am.
Yep. So he, too, will be obviously making another World Cup appearance there, and him and Nathan Brown, as I touched on before. For me, how do I say this about Italy? On paper, a lot of these players you don't know, but in saying that, actually quite an experienced team. That's what I find when I watch Italy play. On paper, you probably have no clue who's playing, but when you watch them play, they're actually a decent outfit, to be fair with you. And there won't be any pushover. They won't be pushed over by the likes of Italy, by Scotland or Fiji. I think those games there may be closer than we think, to be fair with you. Don't look too deeply into that 104-0 loss against Scotland there. I don't see that happening. If it does, well. But in saying that, I think their strengths, they can rely heavily on their forward pack. They've got some decent forward packs. Their weaknesses, look, the reality, the spine, I suppose. Their defense overall from the backs as well, especially against Australia, right? Obviously, they're not going to beat Australia, but how many points do they sort of, try and hold off? You know what I mean? It's that type of question there for me. But instead that with Italy, the Italian squad, that's it there. And the best they can do is, I think, look for their forwards. But that is me. They're done. Fiji, good luck to you, Sam.
Alrighty. So for the Fiji squad, this is not in captain order or what have you, but Kevin Aguaman, worth noting, is the captain of the Fiji Bati. We go Wanga Blake, Micah Sivo, Tui Kamikamika, Vuate Karawalavu, and it just needs some correcting here as well. For the Roosters, a young man that Rugby League Guru has pumped the tires up of for the past year or so. Shout out to Rugby League Guru. It's either Josh Wong or Siwa Wong. There's been a couple of different spelling mistakes or what have you, or interpretations, but he plays in the second row. And then for the Panthers, Filiami Kikau, Apasai Coruscant, and Sunia Taruva is in for the Fiji Bati. Lamar Manuel Leo Lavave and Isaac Limulumi from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and Penioni Tagatui Mua, Brandon Wakeham, and Michaeli Ravalawa. And then the halfback for the Fiji Bati in this World Cup is Natane Masima. He's a West Magpies representative. And then Taniela Drugu from the North Queensland Cowboys. He has represented Fiji in the Olympics of just recently. So he's got some big game experience, which is what they need as well. Sitivani Mose Drake plays for the London Broncos. Marcelo Montoya, I think, is floating around there. There's been a couple of other mistakes from a few different locations. Ben Naku Buai from the Lee Centurions. That's another name that you may not have heard of before, but trust me, the bloke goes hard. Pio Seki from Manly Seagulls. Joseph Ratuvai Kasarevalu. He plays for the Redcliffe Dolphins. Semi Valame from the Canberra Raiders, and King Vuniyayawa from the Salford Red Devils. And the coach for the Fiji Bati is Joe Rabele.
Awesome, as. And look, Sam, just quickly as well to sort of expand on the squad. What are your thoughts on the squad generally, and where would you think their strengths and or weaknesses sort of lie?
Well, there's certainly a lot of power in the forward pack, and I'll just quickly say that there's another three names I haven't mentioned yet. Jawasa Drodralagi, he's a prop. lock forward. Caelan Miller played in that test match against Papua New Guinea earlier this season. And Henry Raiwulu, he's a Ron Massey Cup Wentworth Magpies player. He plays in the halves. I think they're definitely the biggest threat to Australia in this pool. I'm kind of disappointed and shocked at some of the omissions from this side. For example, there's a young man from Hull FC named Joe Lovodua who came from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and Hull FC over in the Super League have been ravaged by injury. And Joe Lovodua, for a bloke that's never played first grade before and up until this season, he's been exceptional in the halves, filling in at hooker, which is his preferred position. So to not see him there is unfortunate. Tarek Sims, for example, is another name that's been left out. And I don't know why, and I apologize for not having some evidence with me, but the Saifidi brothers, Daniel and Jacob Saifidi, not in the squad. I don't know why, and I don't know bloody how, but gee whiz, they do well with them. So it does, and obviously Regan Campbell-Gillard could have been a part of the Fiji squad too, but he was elected to play for the Kangaroo squad as well. So while it's still very good, and that backline is as explosive a backline as you'll probably see, I just think that there's just a bit of forward power that they probably would have liked in the form of the Saifidi brothers and the Sims brothers, including Corbin Sims, who wasn't named as well.
Yep. No. Awesome. I like it. And thanks for that as well. And I'm really surprised because for me, I just think with Fiji, they've definitely got the backs, as you mentioned. They're very explosive. I think they're arguably one of the best backs going around the competition on a continual basis. Fiji always produce good backs, but they're forward pack. And that's what I think will probably let them down at the end of the day, is their forward pack. Just not enough grunt experience. And obviously, it's interesting though, nonetheless. All right. So here I have the. I've got the pleasure of actually announcing the Scottish squad, and look, I'm not going to throw my Scottish accent around as much as I'd love to. I'll keep this very normal here.
Yep.
All right. So Charlie Emsley, Shane Toll, Kieran Buchanan, Logan Bayliss-Brow, Bailey Hayward, Davey Dixon, Dale Ferguson, Lewis Clark, Ben Hallowell, Lachlan Walmsley, Kane Linnett, Callum Gain, Alex Walker, Carl Schneider, Ewan Aiken, Luke Bain, Ryan Briley, Sam Luckley, Bailey Liu, James Bell, Matty Russell, Liam Hood, Guy Graham, and Jack Teenby. And that there is the Scottish Rugby League squad there. Look, first things first, I suppose with this name here, you're probably sort of were wanting to hear any names you sort of know of, and I named a few, right? The likes of Ewan Aiken, and obviously, where is it? Kane Linnett as well. I'm sure you're very familiar with Kane Linnett, Sam.
Yep.
Right? So again, some of those names there. The likes of, I suppose, veteran as well, Ryan Briley, who's been around before, Matty Russell, some of these players here. Look, with Scotland, I suppose they go in. They should go in here. How do I say this? They should go in with high ambitions. I think the reality is with the names we've named, especially with Fiji, Italy, and Scotland. Obviously, realistically, you look at Fiji to probably take second place. But in saying that, I don't think you could ride out Scotland. In all honesty, we got to remember that they actually drew with Samoa last time they played in the Rugby League World Cup 2017. They drew. So this team here has a bit of experience in the back line as well. Expect a lot of their forward packs as well to do a lot of work. Now, just question with you, Sam. If you're the Scottish coach and you understand that Ewan Aitken can play second row, right? And you can and he can play centre, but you've got a new team, the Scottish team. Where would you sort of, where would you rather have Ewan Aitken? Would you rather have him in the centres? Would you rather have him in the second row? Where would you think he's more important for a Scottish team that, I suppose will probably end up finishing third, but could possibly finish second in the pool? Where would you, how, why?
Yeah, bugger. I'd probably chuck him into the centres, actually. I've always preferred him more of a centre than a second rower, to be honest, man. And I think that they are stocked up for forwards and locks and edge forwards as well anyway, Scotland. So I'd use him more of a centre. because he's still got some youth in those legs, man. And but that's how I do it. I'd have, if I had to, I'd choose Aiken more along the center combination instead of second row.
Okay, no, I like it. And just quickly as well, hello to everyone there, Pro Enzo Vids, Warriors in Our Fanatics, TJC Sports, Te Waiwai, all of you guys there. Thank you again for being part of this discussion here. Paddy G, hello. So, apparently, Paddy G said Munster has re-signed with the Storm. There you go. There you go. Anyway, now, the best to last. Sam, over to you.
Well, I really appreciate that. Now, before we go on, I'm sorry if you wanted to save this up, but let's talk about the news that dropped today on the numbers on the backs of the players heading into the World Cup. The numbers on the backs of the players for the Kangaroos is going to be, as far as experience goes. So, for example, Daly Cherry Evans, he's going to be wearing number 2 on his back throughout the entire World Cup, which is going to be awfully confusing for the commentators up there. So let's go through it. So in jersey number 1, James Tedesco. Jersey number 2, DCE. Jersey number 3, who will probably play hooker, Ben Hunt. Then in jersey number 4, Valentine Holmes. Jersey number 5, Jake Travojevic. Jersey number 6, Regan Campbell-Gillard. Jersey number 7, Cameron Munster. Jersey number 8, Latrell Mitchell. 9, Addo Carr. 10, Jack Whiten. Number 11, Cameron Murray. Number 12, Matt Burton. And this is where we start getting into the debutants of the Kangaroos, and that's half the squad. But fair enough, Kangaroos haven't played a test match since 2019, which is seriously exciting. Jersey number 13 is Pat Carrigan. Jersey 14, Nathan Cleary. 15, Lindsay Collins. 16, Ruben Bloody Cotter. Jersey number 17, Angus Crichton. Jersey number 18, Tino Fa'asuamala-Aui. Jersey number 19, Campbell Graham. Jersey 20, Harry Grant. 21, Liam Martin. 22, Jeremiah Nanai. 23, Murray Taulagi. And jersey number 24, Isaiah Yeo. And the coach is Mal Meninga.
That is pretty interesting. I think the only one there that makes sense is Latrell Mitchell, number 8, because he's as big as a prop too. So it is all good. No, I kid. Look, in saying that, in all honesty, you can be as biased as you want, or maybe impartial. I don't know. Australia squad, strengths, weaknesses. Let's have it.
The strengths for look, we know that the strengths are they play the toughest, in my opinion, the toughest, best rugby league competition in the entire world. And most of these players have played every single game this season, including State of Origin too. The weaknesses, I guess, is maybe, it falls on Mal Meninga's shoulders. How is the interchange bench going to be used? And just the one position in the back line, the center position, is going to be Valentine Holmes on the wing, for preference for Jack Whiten to play in the centres. So I don't think I guess it's not a weakness, but it is. There are a couple of questions and good headaches over the centre position and the interchange bench as well, because I think Ruben Cotter's an absolute deserved lock-in, for example, to be on the interchange bench, but there might be a preference for somebody else. So honest to goodness, I'm sorry to be a bit of a dour, damp old sod, HTB, but I don't see any weaknesses in this squad, man. I think Kangaroos are going to be exceptional this World Cup.
Yeah. No, look, it is what it is. And I suppose I agree with you as much as I don't want to say it. I do. But the reality is Australia have a strong squad. And as you sort of touched on before as well, obviously it is still an open World Cup, but in saying that, Australia still have a strong team, in my opinion, and it should be a very good encounter. Now,
I suppose continuity. I suppose it is the first time that they've all played since 2019, and continuity it would probably be their downfall, basically. Yeah,
that's right. And I suppose that's where I would personally say that's probably their weakness. Is that right? This is probably the lack of experience playing together. It could be harmful or may not even affect Australia at all. We'll just have to wait and sort of see there. Now, coming up to Pool B, we've got some Pool B matches. What are your, I suppose, matches you're looking forward to for Pool B?
Yeah, I'm looking forward mostly.
Your top two, yeah.
Top two, that's okay. So I think Australia versus Fiji, obviously,
Yep.
It is the second match of the tournament to kick off on October 16th, Australian Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 in the morning. I think that's about 5 a.m. for you, hold the ball.
Right. Yep.
And the next, Fiji, they've never beaten Australia before. So this is their best opportunity to do it, man. And what a stage to do it on.
Yes.
The other matchup that I'm looking forward to in this pool, and no disrespect to Italy, but it is Fiji versus Scotland. I think Scotland's forward pack, bro, is not to be trifled with. For example, you mentioned Sam Luckley for the Salford Devils. Salford in the Super League had a very good year. Bit of a slow start, but they came back really strongly. I like the look of Scotland's forward pack. I think they're going to be really, really fierce. And on their day, can beat Italy, can beat Fiji, might find it difficult against the Kangaroos. So if they want to potentially play playoffs, Scotland, the matchup against Fiji is going to be the key to victory for them. Most importantly. And also Ryan Brealey will be the halfback for Scotland. So I'm really, and he was the halfback for the Salford Red Devils as well. And again, they made it to the preliminary final of the Super League competition. So I'm the second most, the game I'm second most looking forward to in this pool is Fiji versus Scotland.
Yep, no worries. I like that. Look, for me, the first game, I suppose only because I think it is, as Sam sort of touched on as well, Fiji's greatest chance to do something. It'll be Australia versus Fiji. Not only that, I think it's also good, well, for me anyway, I just want to sort of see how the Aussies are sort of going and how their squad sort of assembles for this game here. The next game for me, I reckon, for Pool B, you touched on Fiji, Scotland, and I reckon that's probably a good one there to watch. But I think for mine, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Australia versus Italy, simply because they've never played each other. We all know there's a lot of Italians. There's a healthy Italian culture over here in Australia, and obviously a lot of Italian players, you know, of descent who are playing in the NRL. But they've actually never really crossed paths technically. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing how that sort of pans out, how Tedesco goes against his countrymen, and so on and so forth as well. So I think it's going to be a very good match there for mine. And so those are sort of like my two matches there. And just another thing as well, Sam.
Yeah, man.
Please be as in-depth as possible if you can. If not, that is okay. But I think, we'll do your rankings first, and then I'll go after you. But your Pool B rankings and why from fourth to first.
All right, no worries. So I think the minor premiers of this pool is going to be the Kangaroos. I do think that they are going to go through undefeated, unless if they, of course, rest their A side against Scotland, for example. That's the only way that I could see it happening. And again, we mentioned it just a second ago. The continuity may be the biggest weakness for Australia, but I don't think it's going to overrun them in the end. My second position is going to be Fiji. Now, Fiji did have that hit out against the Papua New Guineans earlier this season in June, and I think that was a much needed hit out for Fiji, and Scotland will finish in third. They have players that have played at a higher level experience than Italy. I think Italy will probably go through the tournament winless, unfortunately. I think they'll get the wooden spoon. And what you said about Italy before, man, I heard what you said about their experience. While they haven't played, most of their players, except for the likes of Nathan Brown and Cooper Johns, for example, haven't played first grade level rugby league. Looking at that side, though, for example, they've got a few Sunshine Coast Falcons players there that played just about every single game of the season. A lot of their players in that squad played a lot, 3/4, if not all, of their competitions this season. So they've actually got a lot of mileage under the legs, which is going to help them out big time. But I don't think it's going to get them out of the wooden spoon position, because I think Scotland, especially with those two Salford Red Devils there in Luckley and Brealey, I think they'll be too good for Italy. I do think that they'll beat them when they do clash. So just to wrap it up, I've got the Kangaroos in first. I've got the Fiji Bati in second. I've got the Scottish in third and Italy in fourth.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. Look, if I was, my own personal rankings, I think we all agree Australia will come first. I think there's no need to explain. They'll be too strong. And even then, when they sort of play in the pool games, I dare even say it, I don't even think they'll really have their strongest squads playing, any of these teams here. I think they'll sort of just test the water, so to speak, game by game, trying to sort of move pieces around because it's sort of, the pool game for Australia, the pool games are important, but not really. I think it's after that, that's obviously when you want to sort of start getting a serious squad together. That's what I think will happen. So they'll come first. As for second, look, realistically, I think I can only go for Fiji here, primarily because of their players, their forwards. Granted, not their best forward pack, though. I think enough to pull on to second. However, disclaimer. I'm actually open to a Scotland upset win over Fiji. So in saying that, I do have Scotland in third, but I won't be surprised if Scotland do actually end up beating Fiji. I don't think so. Sam, you touched on it before. Their players are quality. They've got some old campaigners, old heads, but they've also got some new players too. And like you said, some of their players there as well play NRL and Super League quite consistently, right? And I think we shouldn't discredit them or wipe them out. To say Fiji's going to win, sure, but let's wait and see. But I still have Fiji in second place nonetheless. Obviously, third for me, Scotland. Their game against Australia be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. I just don't think they'll have the wheels at the end there. Fiji, that's the possible game where they can do some damage, see what happens. But possibly in reality, I think I still see them losing against Italy. Yeah, well, they'll beat them. And that brings me to Italy, who I think, unfortunately, as Sam quoted, saying that they will get the wooden spoon. And I think that's just simple as that. But in saying that, Sam, if I was to sort of just ask you a question here about any potential upsets, would you be shocked if Italy, say, for example, pulled off a win against Fiji?
I would, man. I really would. You've got Apisai Coruscant and William and Kikau. Yep. I don't mean to single out two players, but gee whiz, man, both those players have been exceptional, and just not just because they play for Panthers, just in their own right, man. You put them outside of a club, man, they are the best in their positions this year, man, and rightfully so. Whereas the Italian side, with all due respect, they've got no one that really shines that brightly for him, bar a Nathan Brown on his angriest days sort of thing. And again, like as we both have said, Scotland versus Fiji is going to be such a critical matchup, man, for both of their playoff prospects, bro. So, but do you call it an upset if Scotland beat Fiji? I don't know, maybe just, but and obviously if Kangaroos lose art game in this pool stage, it's one of the great upsets in World Cup history, just quietly.
I agree with you. And just a last question as well. Why is the Rugby League World Cup important? Why is International Rugby League important? I suppose for you, there's no right or wrong answers. Hit from the heart, man. Why do you think it's important to have this, and why should we continue to have the international game progress after this especially? Over to you.
Hold the ball, man. We currently don't know when the next test matches will be throughout the calendar season. So this year we had that wonderful weekend of international rep round, and we don't know when it's coming back. We don't know when these players are going to play for their countries again. So this is their state of origin for the next 6 or so weeks for the likes of a Nathan Brown representing Italy, for the likes of a Kane Linnett representing his country, for example. He's going to be on one of arguably the biggest stage that he's played since he's gone over to Super League, man. So it's absolutely it's massive. It's absolutely massive to grow the game internationally, man, after it being on pause for 2 or 3 seasons, because I don't want to make it about the Warriors here, but you look at the New Zealand Warriors grassroots at the moment, and it's not good. It's not good because of what we've all experienced over these past few years, man. And so all these rugby league places that are playing and being represented this next week, It's so important, man. It is so important for the game of rugby league, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I'm not going to add too much onto it, only because I think you've sort of covered everything there. I will say it is important, though. One more question. I lied. I'm sorry, and it's more so just a general thought on what I was thinking about today, and I sort of posted it on Twitter as well. Victor Radley, we all know of this big decision, and sorry, it has nothing to do with this pool here, but it's International Rugby League and sort of crosses between Origin and International. He is obviously playing for England, and technically, once he puts on that English jersey, he is no longer allowed to play for the Blues anymore. That's the way it goes. What are your thoughts on that? And also, another question added. If Samoa or Tonga were to do the absolute unthinkable, do we see them tier one? And if so, what's the after effects, ramifications, particularly for our Polynesian players who love to play for Tonga and Samoa, but also want to play a bit of Origin? So how do you sort of, sorry.
No, you're right, man.
I threw you a grenade.
No, you're right, man. No, you're right, dude. So I think it's getting to a stage now where elite talents like Victor Radley that are getting shunted because they want to represent England, which is I think the tier rankings and the correlation to whether or not you play Origin football needs to be edited, or it needs to just be broken and rethunk all over again, man. Josh Papali'i, for example, playing for Samoa, if I'm correct in saying, if they become tier one nation Samoa, Papali'i never plays for Queensland again, and he's been one of the best Origin props of the past 10 years or so for Queensland. So I think this all needs to be rethunk, man. But I understand the argument, though, hold the ball, about if you're born in Queensland, or if you need to be in New South Wales from 16 years or 14 years old or something like that in order to be elected to play Origin if you're ever good enough. I understand that train of thought, bro, but players that are Polynesian but born and live in Australia their entire lives deserve that right, in my opinion, to play for their country, or play for their bloodline, but play for the country that they live in, that they've lived in their entire lives, man. But if their bloodline is Samoan, I think it's getting to a point now where no one should stand in the way of them representing their bloodline at all. Because it may bring the Kangaroos back down a level or so by losing a Papali'i. Sorry to use him consistently as an example, but dude, it's almost getting to a point now where someone like Mulatalo, for example, or somebody else in the future could really feel like they're being done by racism. They're not allowed to play Origin because of old racist rules, basically. That's a pretty harsh, heavy thing to say, but that's what's sort of boiling at the moment. That's what's sort of bubbling up at the moment. And I don't think if you're a Polynesian gentleman that's lived in Australia their entire lives, that should not stop you from playing State of Origin. And I don't think it dilutes or takes away anything from the State of Origin spectacle. I hope I wobbled on all right just then, mate, but I think it needs to be rethunk. And I think eventually the tier nations, and whether or not you do or not, I don't think it should matter. I think if you live in Australia for long enough, you should be allowed to both represent Origin, your state, and your bloodline, your country.
I see that. And I agree there. I suppose the thorough span in the works as well. Obviously, New Zealand had this sort of issue as well come 2017. And, when we had the likes of Taukehau, Taumaro, a few of the Tongan players basically go and play for Tonga instead of wearing the black jersey. And I suppose New Zealand had that experience quite earlier on. But because we don't have Origin, it's not necessarily such a strong talking point, right? Because it is what it is. And I suppose for me, witnessing it happen to Australia, I think the main reason why it's such a huge talking point is because of State of Origin. And that's the reason why you have players or people in general who are saying, if you're going to be born here, play Origin. If not, then sort of bugger off and don't think about playing Origin. And I think that's a pretty. I don't agree with that sentiment there, that thought there, that the way they sort of speak about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, can I sort of just bring this to you as well regarding tiers and all that stuff? That if Tonga and Samoa were to be tier 1 nations, and obviously the process of playing for Origin for these players now became null and void because you couldn't, how would you feel?
I'd feel pretty disgusted, and I would be one of the first people to put my name down on a what are they called, a ballot or whatever. Like I'd be putting my name down to make sure that rule is changed. I'd be pretty knocked off, if I'm telling you the truth, mate. It would be a massive shame.
No, I agree with you. And I suppose we're saying that as we sort of wind this up as well. Obviously, Rick the Redley, we all know what's happened with him there in England there. And it's actually quite sad because obviously he's from New South Wales. His old man, I believe from what I'm hearing, is from England. He wants to represent his father's family. That is A-OK, but because of that, he can't. And what are your views on that? I suppose you would probably explain that, but again, with Victor Radley just being an isolated case, going to England as opposed to Tonga Samoa with their tier 2, what are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it's sad, and I think it's a massive shame. He was in the Blues squad, wasn't he, earlier this season? So, and while he hadn't made his decision, bro, I mean, I don't know, just all communication now just shuts down with Victor Radley. I don't know, man. Maybe it has, and maybe it will, or maybe it will. I hope not. I touch wood. All the best to Victor Radley, excuse me. But are there now bridges burnt because of his decision and because of old rules that need to be re-edited again, man? I think it's a crying shame. While I think Radley can be his own worst enemy at times, I think he's a terrific player that his fierceness, his competitiveness, man, we saw it in that final game against South Sydney, how short of a wick he has. And we're never going to see that in the Origin arena, man. As if you wouldn't want to see Victor Radley go off like a loose cannon in State of Origin next year, man. And that's never going to happen now because he's been, in my opinion, unfairly rubbed out of Origin conversations forevermore until hopefully one day these are all changed, man.
Yeah, it is quite sad. And obviously, like you touched on before, he's a character, and I think made for the Origin arena, but in saying that, the international arena as well. Just unfortunately, it's not for the Kangaroos. But in saying it's going to be interesting to sort of see him play there for England. Look, Sam, before we sort of wind this up as well, is there anything you wanted to touch on regarding these teams here? Let me know. If not, that's okay. But please, over to you.
So just quickly, you've got the Australian, just to the Australian squad, you've got Nico Hines, Damien Cook, and Dylan Edwards that are standby players. So they've got to maintain a healthy regime for the next couple of weeks or so. And as far as from the outside looking in, do I think they deserve a spot to represent Australia? Yeah, I do, but it's just such a stacked a squad that I don't think anyone was unfairly left out, in my opinion. I think Mel Meninga hit the nail on the head. Api Coruscant was another one that could have represented Australia, but alas, it's Fiji. And again, Fiji, I'm a bit disappointed, and I'd love to know why big names like the Saifidi brothers aren't representing Fiji. I'd love to know why. Italy, I'll be interested to see how they go, especially young man Daniel Atkinson at halfback for the Falcons for Italy, because he the Sunshine Coast Falcons in the Queensland Cup got to the preliminary final, and he was a massive contributor this season as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing the youth of Italy and Scotland. I'm looking forward to once again seeing the likes of a Dale Ferguson, who's been there who's been a part of the Scottish rugby league squad since 2013, for example, and same with a Matty Russell too. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it, bro.
Awesome. I agree there. And thanks again for sharing. But I just need to touch on that. And I'm sorry, but you made me sort of touch on it.
Yeah.
Tedesco over Dylan Edwards. I mean, look, I can obviously see the argument Tedesco being, to be fair with you, just the Australian fullback, the Blues fullback, just so consistent. But Dylan Edwards has been pretty consistent too over the last 2 years, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so you're Mal Meninga, you're looking at Tedesco and Edwards. You pick Tedesco. Why? And why would you leave Edwards out, especially if he won Churchill?
Yeah, especially since he won Churchill. For me, Dylan Edwards was the Dally M fullback of this season. I think James Tedesco, along with the entire Roosters squad, took just a little bit too long to get things going. I think Edwards should have won the Dally M Player of the Season. But the longer that the year went, James Tedesco got more and more effective and got more and more involved. And eventually there was a stage there where Dylan Edwards was way up here for the running meters. He was way up there. And James Tedesco was floating around here. And it's actually changed that Tedesco finished the year, I think, with either the most carries or the most run meters. But he took over Dylan Edwards in a certain aspect. And I think also the fact that James Tedesco has been there before representing Australia as well. I would have chosen Dylan Edwards to be the Dally M fullback of the year, but I probably would have went with James Tedesco to be the captain of the Kangaroo squad. He's arguably, besides Latrell Mitchell, the best player in the game and has been the best player in the game since 2018, man.
Yeah, look, can't argue there. All the Australian squad, just touching on them, who's the one player, if you could name out of everyone there?
Yeah.
Who are you keen to see play the most?
Who am I keen to see play the most, mate? Ruben Cotter. Holy crap, dude. That man deserves his spot. He missed about 5 or 6 weeks through a hamstring injury there, but such was his exceptional season. I think he made like 50 or 60 tackles for 0 missed in one of the finals matches played. He is absolutely extraordinary, and I don't think anyone, including myself, a starch Cowboys supporter, has really appreciated what this guy can do throughout all the years, because his years have been so injury affected. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Ruben Cotter come off the bench and have Fiji and have Scotland and Italy just absolutely at 6s and 7s. Like, look, I think he's going to come on, and Scotland and Italy are going to be in a mind frame of, what the hell is this? Who the hell is this dude coming off the bench, kicking our asses, bro? This is another level of intensity that we never had appreciation for and weren't anticipating. So I think Ruben Cotter, if he can stay injury free, and I touch wood on that, I think he's going to absolutely kill it for the Kangaroos, bro, and should play in every single game. Look,
well, to be fair with you, he just has this, and I mean this in a respectful way, just the psycho about him, just very in otherworldly when he's on the field there. A lot of energy, a lot of aggression. Not a dirty player, does it right as well. I think I like Ruben Cotter. He's not a dirty player. He lets his tackling and his clean technique do the talking, which is what I like about him. In saying that, though, with my sort of favorite player to want to watch for Australia, I think for me personally, I can't go past Latrell Mitchell. I am a big fan of Trell Mitt, and I think he'll play well for Australia here.
How good was it? How good was it that he played in that Kuri Knockout Cup the other day?
Yeah,
man? That was so good, dude.
It's good. It's good for him, and obviously the community as well, being able to see Latrell Mitchell play. A player of the status. Let's be honest here. He's definitely in the elite sort of range. In terms of rugby league status, NRL status as well. I think it'll be sensational to watch. Look, in saying that though, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. However, before we go, is there anything you want to say? Where can they follow you? And just quickly as well, I hope you guys have been looking on the screen below there. Please follow Sam Revill on his YouTube, Instagram, as well as his Twitter. Please do. He's a good friend of mine, one of my favorite YouTubers, and more importantly, just a good overall top bloke. So quickly as well, before it goes, anything you want to say, Sam Revill, please?
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I'm a little bit more active on Twitter these days. So if you find my handle, please give us a follow. Instagram, I'm on Lakeside2034. My YouTube channel, it's going pretty well. I've been a little bit lackluster on the content over the past couple of days, and that's only just because I've come out of the black hole that was the Cowboys preliminary final loss. But expect some big content over the next few weeks, guys. My season review, the best games of 2022, the World Cup itself, and all the news that's dropping. And unfortunately, there's been a couple of really big excuse my French, but there's been some big bastard bloody things that have happened to the Cowboys team over the past 24, 48 hours, man. So, but yeah, dude, I'm going to go absolutely berserk on the old content for the rest of the season and leading up to 2023, man. But hold the ball, dude. You're an absolute champion. Like, seriously, thank you so much for having me, dude. And yeah, we've got to collaborate more, man, for sure.
We will. This won't be the last time. I'm sure we can try and tee up maybe behind the scenes a live where if you're brave enough to, like myself, to stay up in the early hours of the morning to watch a game, let's try and do it. You know, fall asleep challenge. But I'm looking saying that. Thank you again for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And again, guys, please follow him. In saying that concludes our Pool B discussion. In saying that, we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, it is what it is. Thank you again. And if you want your team to win, what do they have to do? Hold the ball. Take it easy. See you guys next time. Bless you all.